Hi, episode episode 15 of Sheepdog Brotherhood. I'm, as always, Doug Hewlett, and with me today is Brett Atterbury, as always, because otherwise it would just be me talking to myself. So,
Which could be kind of interesting, but probably not so much.
yeah, you don't want to get alone trapped in here with me. It's no good.
I could totally believe that.
Well, thank you, Brett, for again making time to sit down and talk. Um, today I wanted to talk about you know what we're often talking about here on the Sheepdog Brotherhood, and as we're starting to amass some men and get people rallied around what we're trying to do, which is shed light on the fact that as men in our crazy mixed up society, we need to stick together. We need to be there to support one another. We need to find courage in what other people are doing, and just I've been going through a work transition myself, and I've been trying to document it through LinkedIn, and I am astounded by the number of people that are reaching out to me. So, real quick, here's what I've noticed. I was doing a lot of content creation on LinkedIn, talking about how to use personalized videos in sales outreach. It's a novel idea. It's not adopted by a lot of people. And every single day, making videos, and I'm out there talking about it. And I, did okay. Got some feedback from people. Okay. And then I lost my job. I didn't tell anybody that I lost my job. I just kind of talked about it as though I left. And a couple of months later, I finally had enough guilt that I felt as though, even though I wasn't lying, I was omitting the fact that I had been fired rather than leaving on my own, under my own steam.
Yeah.
And I made a video and I posted it. And I went from medical device sales into working in the trades. And the number of people who reached out to me because they thanked me for just being honest about being fired. And then on a regular basis, people reach out to me and talk to me and want to talk to me about leaving a white collar job for a job in the trades. I never in 1,000 years thought that anybody would be interested in that at all. And just this morning, another guy reached out and was like, "Hey man, do you have time to talk?" Like it's similar to episode 14 where you were talking about that woman came up to you and was like, "Sir, can we talk?"
Yeah.
It's a lot of that. I'm amazed at the number of people who want to have a conversation about making this sort of transition. So now, sort of what I wanted to talk about today was I have this, LinkedIn profile where I talk about sort of this transition. And then I have what you and I are doing, the Sheepdog Brotherhood. And I've been trying to keep them separate, right? I've been trying to keep the professional side of my life, the work side of my life on LinkedIn, sort of just talking about that stuff and not necessarily talking about the Sheepdog Brotherhood, because it felt like they were in two separate silos. And what I realized this week was that they, in fact, are very much the same. The one informs the other. And, I was ashamed to lose my job. I was ashamed to tell anybody about it. And I've talked about that before with you about how, I felt as though it would give ammunition to those people who are my detractors, people that don't like me for any number of reasons. And it would just give them something to laugh at me about. And the minute that I was honest and shared what happened, I took that power away from them. It wasn't them having something over me. It was me having it on me. Like if I make fun of myself for a deficiency that I have, then you're not armed with that. You can't hurt me with a thing that already I've come out and said, I doubt you've ever seen the movie 5 Mile with like the what's his name? Slim Shady. What the hell was that rapper's name? That white kid.
I
That white
don't
kid.
travel in the rapper world like you do, so I'm not sure.
Yeah. Anyway, there's a scene where he's in a rap battle, and effectively what he does is he makes fun of himself for all the things that he knows that guy is going to make fun of him on, and he disarms him because he takes that away from them. Anyway, all that to say that I've realized this week that I was taken down a number of pegs that I had, wrongly put myself, I was holding myself in high esteem, right? An Ivy League graduate and an athlete. And, I had a really well-paying job and all of the accolades that society tells us are the things that we should be striving for. I had all of those things. And then in one day, I lost that. I suddenly had no job, and I was ashamed and discouraged. And strangely enough, I had no friends around to check in on me, to see how I was doing it. Those people that I thought would be there were not. And I felt very alone. And where I had no humility, I suddenly was forced, a big old spoonful of humility. And I was listening to the gospel reading this week about Jesus feeding the 5,000. And what dawned on me is that I was in a place prior to losing my job. I was in a place where I felt that I had all of the trappings of success, and I didn't necessarily need to be shown how penniless I was, right? I had the things and I had the salary. So if I wanted something, I could go get it. But because of that, there was no room for growth. And in losing my career and accepting the fact that this new career that I really wanted to go and do, but in some ways felt a little like, is that beneath me? And I say that humbly and awfully.
Yeah.
But I was going to go from
honestly.
Yeah, I was going to go from a job that people would look, especially my mom, right? My mom was like, my son's in the hospital working. I mean, I don't think she recognized that I wasn't a doctor, but that's how she liked to present it to people.
Doug, did you tell her that you weren't a doctor?
Yeah, no, I did. But
she's like, oh, son, it's all the same.
Well, the way she looked at me is how I thought about how well, people must think that this job that I have makes me, pretty important.
Yeah.
And when I lost that job and I wanted to go work in the trades and go do this because I just passionate about it, how would other people look at me? Would people look like I had failed? Why did I go to college? Why did I go through all those things only to be building cabinets?
Yeah.
Once I got over that, the amount of happiness I've had just in my vocation and what I'm doing has just been profound. But what I realized this week was that, like the little kid who brings the 5 loaves and Jesus does something amazing with it, he takes a little bit of something and turns it into something that is a miracle. And there is tremendous, let's say, from a little, a lot of opportunity. From a little, something large and magnificent is done. And I realized this week, while driving to work on this tiny little back road, watching the sunrise, that I am doing something very small right now. I'm building cabinets. People aren't in desperate need. It's not life and death. My pager doesn't go off anymore for cabinet emergencies. But from being knocked down all of those pegs to a point where I don't know how we're going to keep paying our bills, honey, I'm concerned. I suddenly have opportunity where before I had no opportunity because I stood in my own way, because I was so unwilling to walk away from a job that I despised and hated, surrounded by people that I had no respect for. I was unwilling to walk away because the money was too good.
Yeah.
And because of that, I had no opportunity. I limited myself and the opportunity for happiness and true success because I couldn't walk away from a thing.
Doug,
When that thing was taken away from me by someone else,
yeah,
I suddenly had opportunity. So this week I realized that I don't need to separate the work that I'm doing on LinkedIn with my, my professional woodworking business from the Sheepdog Brotherhood and what we're trying to do to speak to men, to get men to realize that they have a God-given duty that's been assigned to them by God, which is to dignify all women. But from that, you can't go do a hard thing. And you talked about this a couple of weeks ago. You can't go do a hard thing if you don't prepare to do the hard thing. You could start doing a hard thing and then quit because you don't have the endurance, the strength built up to go and persevere to the end. Mm. So I share this little story because I want anyone who hears it to recognize that you may be in a career that you hate. You may be in a job that you despise. You may be surrounded by people, even in your personal group of friends, that you know deep down are not good for you. It may be difficult. People may hate you for the decisions that you make. But oftentimes, in order for you to have a better future, you have to do something that's hard. Sometimes that hard thing is walking away from a job. It's walking away from money. It's walking away from people that are toxic and not good for you. And like I've said before, I am nobody from nowhere. I've realized that all the things that I thought were accolades and successes that I have achieved that make me somebody, were not. I'm nobody. I just have a way of thinking about things. And I want other men to know that it's okay to walk away from stuff. It's okay to walk away from bad, toxic people. It's okay to walk away from a job because you're making a lot of money and you know that it's rotting you from the inside out. You're not alone. There are people, and I'm here if you ever want to just have that conversation or reach out and ask for guidance or help. I'm happy to do those things, or just to be an ear to listen. Here we go. There's my soapbox.
Thank you, Doug. So one thought that I have is, you said you're a nobody, and I know what you mean. Mm-hmm. But a couple of things. You're a somebody. You and I are, faithful Catholics, or we try to be. We're somebody to the one person that matters.
Sure.
And that would be Jesus. But if I kind of move us down into our world of broken humans, you're somebody to your spouse, your wife. You're somebody to your daughter. You're somebody to me. You're somebody to a handful of good friends. And maybe if all of that, I'll just make up a number. If you counted, that would end up being 10 people. And I posted something the other day. I just said quality, not quantity. I think it was talking about people in the church. Who cares if the pews are filled with people who don't believe what's being taught? What is the point of that? It's probably counterproductive, because they're going to go out and say things about your faith and your church and all of its teachings that are wrong, which is quite often what happens. And so sometimes this paring down and getting rid of the chef, and just, even if that wheat is just 5 to 10 people in your life, praise God. I mean, that's where you want to be, and just focus on the quality, not the quantity. So kind of running with that idea a little bit. It's fascinating to me. I'm as affected by it as you, and I bet you everyone listening to this, all the men listening to this, are infected by it as well. And that is by this, if you were blessed enough to be given some of these, let's say, intellectual talents, athletic talents, whatever. And of course, you're going to use those to go off to some big school like you and I did. And of course, you're going to use that to climb the corporate ladder or be a doctor or a lawyer, all that stuff. You know what I'm talking about. And it's like, why are we doing that? It's like from the beginning, we're doing it for other people. It's so bizarre. I mean, it's easy for me now. I'm almost 60 years old looking back at how silly it is. It's hard to pick up on that when you're an early teenager, because you're just trying to please people all the time, like your parents and your friends and society and who knows who else. You're just always trying to do something that they think you should be doing because, gosh, that's a great thing. And rarely do you question when you're young about, well, is it a great thing? Like, why is it a great thing? Why is making a boat ton of money a great thing? Why is having all this material stuff an incredible thing? Why? Why is having the honor of the degrees from, Ivy League schools and the big corporate jobs with the big titles, and I got 1,000 people working under me? Like, why is that a great thing? Like, why do we don't even question that? And what is the answer to that? Why is that a great thing? What is the answer? I don't know. Because
Yeah,
that's not a very good answer. And it's like, it is incredible to me. And I think this is what you're seeing. I think there's probably going to be a deluge of people reaching out to you. The more this gets out there, it's like, there've got to be millions of people. Let's just stick with men. There've got to be millions of men who follow that path like you and I did, that are sitting there right now going, this sucks. And from the perspective of the mask, I've got the big house, I've got the family, I've got the job, I've got my country club membership, blah, blah, blah. I take 3 vacations a year overseas, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they're sitting there, and I guarantee you there are let's just say a ton of men who have all that crap and are deeply, deeply unhappy. Because it's not what resonates with them. It's so funny, when I first met you and the first time I was at your house and you took me in your garage, and you had all this like woodworking equipment. I mean, like big stuff, not like the little saw. You got like the bench and all that stuff. I was like, you're talking to me, and I saw the passion in your voice, because I think you were making some custom cabinets for Nicole or something like that.
Yeah.
And just the way you would talk about that with such passion, compared to how every time we sat down over a beer and you would talk about your med device job, which was like a stream of conscience of just complete despair. Basically. It's like Doug really hates his job.
The industry is the worst part of the industry is the industry, right? Like, the idea behind making medical implants for people to improve conditions is noble and is great.
Sure.
But the people that run the companies that make the decisions are, I still know lots of people in the industry. So obviously those people that I know, and that, if they happen to hear this, know that I think the world of you as an individual.
Yeah.
But so often the morons at the top of the food chain who are making decisions are making just terrible decisions. It would be like sitting in the cockpit of an airplane, and you're just a passenger, and you're watching, and you see the pilot, and he's like, see that mountain there? I'm going to fly this plane right into it. You're like, why are you doing that? Well, just because that other plane just did it, so we're going to do that too. Why are you? This is stupid. You saw they all crashed. I know, but that's the path. We're going to do it.
That's just how we do. That's just how we do things in med device. We crash planes.
It was just so painful. And then we got to a point in healthcare where the sad reality is that so many patients go to a doctor and believe that because it says doctor at the front of their name or MD at the back end, that whatever they say is definitely right. And what people have to realize is that a lot of those doctors are making less this year than they did last year. And they're making, even less than they did a couple of years ago because reimbursement is lower and reimbursement is down and insurance companies are paying them less. And when someone is used to living a certain way, they desperately want to keep living that way. And unfortunately, so many doctors make bad decisions for patients because it's a good decision for their bottom line.
Sure.
And watching that, it was just awful, right? I sold a product that was expensive. Like, I made money on selling products to doctors. The doctors weren't paying for it. It was the hospitals or the insurance companies that ultimately paid for it. But the number of times I'd been in an argument with a surgeon where they would say, yeah, but I get reimbursed less money if I put in your product versus the other product. Wow. I agree with you, Doug, that your product is better for the patient, but I make less money, so I'm not going to do it. Like, what a horrible. So yeah, that's what I was constantly surrounded by and then, and I was part of this too, right? Thinking that what would be an example? It's like guys in the NFL looking down their nose at guys in, the arena football league, right? You're like, the guys in the NFL think very highly of themselves. People in the medical device industry think that they're the cream of the crop, top of the food chain, tip of the spear, whatever euphemism you want to use for being really good at a thing. But the fact of the matter is, like, the industry has gotten to a point where success was the guy who discounts their product the least and the slowest. Like, that's not sales. Just offering like, hey, I got the contract. Yeah, well, you got the contract because you discounted your price 65%.
Yeah.
Anyway, so happy. I sell cabinets now. I make custom cabinets for rich people because they don't know how to do it themselves.
A word that we've mentioned here before, I know we'll circle back to this forever and ever as part of this, but that word integrity is so important because it's like, I've heard it said different ways, but am I living my authentic life? Well, okay. And then you want to dive into definitions, to be clear about, well, what does that mean? But I think integrity, which has its own definition, but if we talk about what it is, it's like, I am who I am. Like, when I'm on this podcast, this is me. If you met me now, if you like we finish this podcast and you walk through the door and you're hanging out with Brad Atterbury for today, you'll be like, that's that same guy that's on the podcast. Or you meet me and the work that I do, that's that same guy that does that work. Like, he's not like two different people. And so many people, so let's talk about you then. You were missing a key component of integrity for yourself because you just weren't in alignment with what you wanted to really do in your heart, and you also happen to have the talent for it in your vocation. You, and I'll put myself in that category, and a lot of men are multi-talented and can do a lot of different things. And I think when that happens, it's a great blessing. But I think when it happens is you're going to tend towards those things that make you more money.
Yeah.
I'm generalizing. And making a lot of money is not a bad thing if you're creating a lot of value for people, I believe. But it kind of caught you in a trap. And that's what I think happens to a lot of men is they get caught in that trap. They have a lot of different talents. And they have a passion in their heart for something like you did around like working with your hands, making stuff. But they won't, it'll be a hobby for them. They'll keep that off to the side because they got to go become, a high powered lawyer or something like that. So they can have that lifestyle and all those things. And they're good at it because they're talented.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, they're just like, I hate doing this. That means you're trapped, you're trapped. And a lot of men just, it takes a boatload of courage. It takes a lot of support too. You had great support from your wife. But it takes a lot of courage to get out because there's typically going to be suffering involved, which
Well,
you
and look,
experience.
in my situation, if I'm being honest, it didn't take courage. It happened to me,
Your point.
right? I didn't make that choice. I never would have made that
But it
choice.
took courage not to go back into it.
Back. Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. I mean, yeah, I chose at a certain point, I chose not to go back to that. Um,
You cut the
it's
cord.
funny
Cut
when
the
you
cord.
said that, all I can think of is the Elvis song, I'm caught in a trap. I can't walk out
Yeah. Could be a theme song for
because I
many men.
love you too much, baby. Right.
Yeah.
And it was the money. It was the esteem.
Sure. Yeah.
It was all of the trappings of the thing that I enjoyed. The funny thing is, I'm making, like, shockingly less than what I was
Yeah.
now, but I have opportunity.
Mhm.
I have, if we continue to grow this business and do the things that we want to do. We took over a really successful cabinet shop, but we are not going to continue to run it the way it was run because that only got here,
Yeah.
Our goal is to, okay, we need to do things differently so that we can take it here and scale it and do things. And I'm working with, two great guys that see that vision, that are letting me take all of the experience that I have in one industry and apply it here and go, hey, here's a way that we could do things and make things, better, more profitable. So while I had to take a step back, there's a lot of opportunity moving forward. But the thing that has significantly changed is I am far more intentional about who I am now.
Mm.
Right? I come home, I am a father and I am a husband, and I'm doing those things. And I don't have to worry that my phone rings at 7 o'clock at night and I need to drive to San Antonio to pick up a tray and go here and go there and get to Dallas and drop it off. Like, nope. I get home from work and I'm able to be with my family and be
Wow.
present. So, yeah, I'm as much as I still think the guy that let me go in the company are a bunch of donkeys, I am appreciative at the same time that it happened. And I'm
Yeah.
appreciative to them for letting me go.
Yeah. And I bet you as time rolls on here, that appreciation will grow even more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
In other words, they did you a great favor, Doug.
honestly, yeah,
And
that
I
I wouldn't
think,
have done
I know
myself.
you mentioned this on another episode, but I like to continue to think about it. It's like, I think God too, really this time for you was like, okay, this is going to be it. I'm going to help you cut the cord because I know, I recall initially that you still, after you got let go, you started like putting out feelers for other opportunities as you would normally
Yeah.
in the industry. And there was like nothing, right? Like nobody contacted you, right? Like no
Brett,
interviews, no nothing.
I applied for jobs at Home Depot and Lowe's and got turned down.
Yeah.
Like, God made it such that I had no path. The only opportunity I had was one that, was presented to me, but I was, somewhat on the fence about, because I'm like, oh man, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and all, I have this saying that I say to my wife all the time. If she presents something to me and she's like, I don't know, should I do this or should I not do that? And it is, where there is doubt, there is no doubt. Like, if you're on the fence about something and you feel like maybe I shouldn't do this thing, then you shouldn't do this thing. Like, you need to listen to that. And for me, it was, I really want to do this thing, but how will I be perceived? Will it take care of me? Will it provide for the family? Will, what if?
Yeah.
But the simple fact was that once I gave up control, or the perception of control, my life has been massively easier. Now, granted, like I'm learning a ton. Like I'm learning CAD softwares, and like there's tons of things at work that are very challenging that I'm learning and drinking from a fire hose each and every day.
Mm.
But my life is considerably less difficult because I stopped trying to wrestle it into the path that I thought it should go and realized like I have absolutely no control over where this is going. So I'm just, it's up to you, God, take over.
Yeah.
I still have
Which is
bills that stress me out, but
yeah, but that's a big move. That's a big move in humility. Like I know, across all Christianity, it's, well-worn phrase, Lord, I put all my concerns at the foot of the cross, which is great if you really do it. And I've seen in my life sometimes I think I do that, but then I take it back. It's like, and God must be sitting there going like, okay, you put it at my foot of my cross. Thank you, Brett. I'm, after all, the God of the universe. That's a good move. And why, after doing that, are you coming here and taking it back again? Which is really stupid.
we're a stupid animal.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Lord, because I'm stupid. That's why. That's my.
Yeah.
I have no other excuse other than to say that's clearly I'm an idiot. Yeah, but it's interesting when you, as you're experiencing right now, when you're integrated and in alignment with all the things that really matter to you, and I know in your case, my case, hopefully many men's case, all the things that matter to God for you. Wow, things just seem to be much better. You're much happier. There's no, stress. There's no hiding. There's no masks.
No,
You're completely
I would
integrated.
argue there's still stress, right? There's still pain and discomfort. There's nothing about Christianity that says like,
Yeah.
pick up your air mattress and follow me, and don't forget your down blanket. Things are going to get real comfortable.
There's
It's
not. Darn it.
like, I'm not saying that this isn't stressful, that it isn't challenging, that there aren't moments of doubt. Like all of that exists, but I just realized that I'm not in control, and that is the part. That's the part that makes me feel so much better. I heard somebody.
So
I
even
think
within the stress of life, which we're all going to have. So maybe it's better said, because you're integrated now with, you're more in alignment with the mission and purpose that God has for you. So even though there's life stress, as there always will be, because we're all broken and the world's broken, but there's a certain kind of peace now in your heart which you didn't have before. Would that be a better way to say it?
You know those workout bands, like they're gigantic
Yeah.
rubber bands.
Sure.
Okay, imagine putting one around your waist and then putting the other end around my waist, and then we both try and walk in two different directions.
Yeah.
Like someone who is stronger will kind of keep pushing it in a direction, right? Like you're at odds. And I feel as though I stopped trying to go off in my own direction while still at the same time trying to be yoked to God. And I went, okay, like whatever. All right, just you win. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm just going to go wherever the hell you tell me to go, because I can't keep doing this and fighting you. And it's one less thing that I have to worry about, because I heard Father Mike Schmitz talk about this. Where I'm at is where I'm supposed to be, right? So often we're looking at what I'll in air quotes say, right? Like, what's God's will for me? And we're like standing, on our path, looking out at the horizon, going like, where am I supposed to go? But the fact of the matter is you're already on the path. Like, here, this is where I'm supposed to be. I'm already pointing in this direction. Go in this direction. Where I'm at is is what God's will for me is. Don't fight that and try and like, oh, look, I see not a path. I'm going to go that direction. Unless that's the path that you're on. Right. I think so often we look to the future and say, all right, how do I get to where I want to go? Rather than, okay, let me live every moment that I can in this way right now and make the most of the moment that I'm currently in. And through this, I will find the next thing that I'm supposed to be focusing on and doing. And like I said, maybe it's just because I'm not that smart, but it's a lot easier.
But look at that, the cabinet opportunity that presented itself to you. It's like, what are the odds? Location, the people involved. I mean, come on. It's like that was being, God wasn't setting all that up just for Doug Hewlett, but setting it up for all the people that are involved in it, the customers, the investors, the employees, all of that. And you were a part of it. And it's just amazing.
Well, and leading up to it, right, I spent 9 months talking into a camera solo every day, trying to talk about things, but just developing that skill set of feeling comfortable talking to a camera and being able to share sort of whatever's rattling around in my brain, whatever I feel in my heart, and just share those things.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel as though what I went through in preparation for this new career, I feel called to use it in this new career so that maybe I could help liberate other people from really, oppressive situations, either by their own making or, because of the job they're in or the career they're on. And
it's often by our own making, right? Yeah. But to see, for you to be an example, my story is a little bit different, but to an example of, you don't have to and shouldn't do this thing that's been imposed upon you from a young age about you have to be this, right? And instead kind of take those shackles off, live day by day. Doesn't mean being lazy. It means letting God show you what it is he really wants you to do.
A buddy of mine, Joel, who was on a couple episodes ago, we were talking about creating a t-shirt brand. And somebody gave me a good idea yesterday. It was a t-shirt that just says white collar jobs suck. So
direct and to the point.
Be on the lookout for the white collar jobs suck line of apparel.
Is there an acronym in there somewhere? I'd have to think about it.
WCJS?
Not a very good one.
No. We'll turn it into something.
Yeah.
Well, hey, brother, thank you so much. This was great. I'm glad we were able to knock out another episode. And as I mentioned in the last episode, we're in the process of trying to get these uploaded to all podcasting platforms. So that will include, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. There's another one that's a really popular one. But anyway, be on the lookout. We're coming to a podcast platform near you.
Awesome.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you, brother.
Bye.
Bye.